Welcome to the Encouragement Engineering Podcast. We combat the negativity that inundates our daily lives with a positive perspective and positive action. Today's guest is Martin Salama. Martin is known as the architect of the Warriors L.I.F.E code. He specializes in helping people frustrated in their life quickly shift their mindset to uncover their greatness so they can live their true potential and enjoy life. An example of what he's achieved is a client like Roberta, who lost a six-figure job due to COVID and came to Martin depressed and felt very lost. Within a short time, he had, quote, direction, focus, and renewed energy around all the possibilities I could pursue in getting back on track to enjoy life. The key to his success is he's mastering the ability to live incredibly full every day, which he turned into the acronym L.I.F.E and created the Warriors L.I.F.E Code coaching program. So please welcome to the show, Martin Salama. Martin, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Bob. I'm excited to be here with you.
Great. Well, if we can, let's tell people, you just don't wake up one day and all of a sudden you're, happy-go-lucky guy. Let's tell people how you got to where you are, and a little bit about you, if you would, please.
Well, there are some people who do wake up and they've been a happy-go-lucky person their whole life. I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
But you know what? Let me go back to when I was a child, because it kind of set the stage for the next 40 years of my life.
Okay.
So when I was 10 years old, I had a tragedy in my life that affected me, like I said, for 40 years. And I have four older sisters and a younger brother. I was 10, he was 5. And unfortunately, and one day, it was almost 50 years ago, he was killed by a school bus.
Wow.
And it was terrible. It was
Yeah.
just absolutely terrible. And looking back now, I could easily say that was the worst day of my entire life.
Yeah.
As it was for my parents.
Oh, yeah. I can't even fathom that. Wow.
Right. Losing a child at that age is just devastating. And they were distraught for a long time.
Mhm.
I'm happy to say that they were able to turn around and do things, community-minded things, in his memory, in his name. For example, it took a while for my mother, but someone reached out to her about another woman who had lost a child, and the two of them got together and they started a bereavement group.
Okay.
Right. And then I come from a small Jewish community. So when someone passes away, you have a week of condolence calls. So they would go during that week and tell women who lost children, I know how you feel.
Right.
And for over 40 years, she did that and made an impact. So, that's a side note, because it's important to recognize that my parents took things that were tragedies, and it took a while, like I said,
Yeah.
and was able to channel that into some beautiful things that they did in his memory, which have left a lasting legacy. But for me at 10 years old,
Yeah.
here I am thinking, oh my God, I'm the only boy left talking about legacy. I've got to now carry on the mantle of the name,
Mm-hmm.
So at that moment, I could look back now and realize that's the day I became a people pleaser.
Ah, wow.
Because I wanted to make sure my parents were always going to be happy.
Right.
They've just gone through this horrific tragedy. And I'm thinking to myself, I got to make sure they never feel anything like that again.
Right.
Not that some of that was in my control, but, I'm just thinking, let me do the best I can do. So I went on a path of becoming their person of whatever they wanted. If I said, oh, I was thinking about doing this, no, you should do this. Oh, okay. That's what I'm going to do. And along with that, I found, looking back now, 2020 is hindsight.
Yeah.
Hindsight is 2020, I should say. I became I took things personally.
Right.
I was a control freak. I had to have attention, recognition for all the things I was doing. If I'm going to be a people pleaser, at least everybody, hey, there he is, the guy, he did it. And I had a very short temper.
Oh.
And all those things are combined. If you're going on your road to do things and things aren't going your way, you take it personally.
Yeah.
And your control is out of your hands, and you lose it. And that's how it was for the next 40 years. I got married. I was trying to make my parents happy. I was trying to make my wife happy and everybody else happy. It's just not possible. But I would rationalize that I was doing it for the greater good.
Right.
And looking back now, it took me 40 years to recognize that the word rationalize is really two words that I've trademarked. It's rational lies,
Ah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I was telling you earlier, I came up with a card deck
Yeah.
of my coaching, warrior to warrior, and one of the cards is about rational lies. Whenever you think you may be doing something that goes against your values, you will rationalize why all the reasons why it's okay. What you're really doing is lying to yourself that it's rational to think that. They're nothing more than rational lies.
Wow.
So, you think about that a minute, Bob.
Yeah. It's good. That's something. Wow.
I mean, you could even do it to the smallest thing. I
Yeah.
got up this morning with the intention of working out, but I was just too tired. So I didn't do it. That's a rational lie.
Right.
You're
Right.
rationalizing that you're too tired, so I won't work out.
Yeah.
So now that that's out there, Bob, I'm sure when something comes up in your mind, you're going to go, is that a rational lie?
Right. It is. And it does. It makes you start to think everything you're doing. Okay, could I do this? Probably. It is a form of discipline. It's that form of getting up when you if the alarm goes off, don't hit the snooze. You don't, you set the alarm for a time that you think was appropriate for what you got to do. Get up,
Yeah.
and then, everything else, the same thing. That's a good way to think of it because it really makes people think as they're doing something immediately. Should I continue? Should I not do this? It really, it's that Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder right away. So that's pretty
Exactly.
good.
And believe me, over the years as a life coach, I've had people tell me they felt like I was Jiminy Cricket when I wasn't there. So like on my
Yeah.
the angel and the devil,
Devil, yeah.
Martin on shoulder. You really want to do that?
Yeah.
I had you on my shoulder, Martin. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, cool.
Well, tell us a little bit more about the Warrior Life Code. I
Yeah,
live, if you could, that acronym
sure.
is so good. Tell
Yeah.
us more about that because I think that's important for people to
Oh,
realize.
100%. But let me give you a little more background. So
Sure.
here I am. It's 40 years into this. It's about 2008. It's almost 40 years since this has happened.
Yeah.
And it's about 35 actually. And 2008 was an interesting year, right?
Yeah.
So my wife and I were 5 years working on a multi-million-dollar health club project. And that started out in 2003, around 2003, 2004. When she came to me, she said, you're closing a business. You're looking for something to do, which I really wasn't, but okay, and I'm having trouble finding a place to play tennis. There's no courts around. I just started playing. I can't find courts. Maybe we should look into opening a tennis place. I'm like, okay. Deep down inside, it's the people pleaser again saying,
Yeah.
okay, this is what she wants. Now, I'm not blaming her for anything that's happened here, but I'm just looking back now. I can say I could have easily said, no, I don't want to do that. But, I said, okay, we're going to do this logically and so on and so forth. We got a feasibility study. The feasibility study said, no, tennis is not enough. You've got to add a health club because it's not going to make you enough money, so on and so forth. Okay, great. Now we go look for the land and we do all that. We negotiate. Now we got to go for architecture and engineers. And once you get that, you got to go to the city and the state and get the zoning, everything you can imagine. So that took us 5 years.
Wow.
Imagine if it was 2006 or 2007. I went to the bank. I go, okay, this is how much I need. I need $15 million. They were like, here you go.
Wow. Yeah.
That's what was happening back then. They didn't care.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Giving money away. Well, as fate would have it, for me, it would be the summer of 2008. So I go to the bank. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. They're like, we're not.
No. Yeah.
It's things are slowing down. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, we'll see what happens. A month later, Bernie Madoff, subprime loans. The world turns upside down. And you know what? It took me along for the roller coaster ride, and I went upside down too.
Wow.
I laugh about it now, but
Yeah.
I was broke.
Yeah.
I stopped paying my mortgage. I stopped paying my car payments. A couple of months later, Dad, they're towing away your car.
Wow.
I was repossessed.
Yeah.
They foreclosed on the house.
Right.
But I lived in New Jersey and there were so many foreclosures. It took them a while to get to us, but they eventually did.
Yeah.
So this is going on. I'm like, oh my God. So it took me a year to get through this situational depression.
Right.
It's obvious that that's what's going on. So I finally get through it with some therapy, with some coaching, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, okay, now what do I want to do? Now that I figured this all out, where do I want to go? Do I really want to go back into business again? Get investors. What? Even so, who's going to trust me?
Right. Right.
You start
Yeah.
thinking all those things. I go, you know what? Over the years, the thing I was most excited about doing was I was also a community-minded person, thanks to my parents.
Right.
I can very proudly say that I was the founder of the first synagogue in Eatontown, New Jersey.
Wow.
And on those Saturday mornings when you needed to get 10 men for services on a Saturday morning, I'd be out with the rabbi waking guys up. Come on, we need you. We need you. Now there's over 400 families in that synagogue.
Wow. Very good.
And here's a side story. About a year into this project of us doing that, I turned to my father. I go, Dad, we're ready to build a building. He goes, okay, here's $50,000 if you name the building after your brother. Right.
Okay.
So it's
Wow.
It's got his Hebrew name in the name of the synagogue. But anyway,
Good.
so I realized I love doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And what I loved most as a leader was showing other people that even a little bit of time you could become something much more than you think.
Mm-hmm.
I realized I was a life coach.
Yeah. Yeah. It dawns on you. It's like, wow. Hey, okay.
Hey, I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, let me start looking into that. I started looking into life coaching. I found a school. It's going to be a few months away that it's going to start. It's near my home, all that good. About 2 months before that, it's my 24th wedding anniversary. And my wife says, I'm done. I want a divorce.
Wow.
I'm like, there's 364 other days in the year.
Yeah. I know you had to do it today. Okay.
Yeah, I was the romantic one. I'd be the one that did all the romantic stuff. But anyway, so I was devastated again.
Yeah.
Just as I'm picking myself up again. I said, you know what? I'm going to go through life coaching anyway. And I think God was on my shoulders there, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, okay, what are you going to do now?
Right.
You're going to keep going or you're going to fold up?
Yeah.
And I kept going. And
Yeah.
that first weekend at training, that coach training, they said, okay, you don't have to be who you think you have to be. You can be who you want to be. I was like, wow.
Oh, yeah.
And they gave us a couple of books to read. And one of them was, and they said, pick from here, read a couple of them. I read The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Okay.
You ever read that one?
I have not.
Put it on your list.
Okay.
All right. So I'll go through the Four Agreements real quick, but it was the second one that really got me.
Uh-huh.
Number one, be impeccable with your word. Number two, don't take anything personally. Number three, don't make any assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
And number four, always do your best.
Okay.
Now, 1 and 4, I always get them, but those are the four of them.
Okay.
But when I read Don't Take Anything Personally, and I read that chapter about it, I was like, oh my God, this is me. This is who I am. Everything that happens, I put it on my shoulders, and the world is for me to create and make sure that everything works. And if I don't, the world's going to fall apart. Right? But does it really?
No. Yeah, no.
But Don Miguel Ruiz, you know what? He told me a secret that people have been telling me my entire life. But until that moment, I just wasn't ready.
Right.
So one of us froze. Hopefully this is still recording.
Yes.
We figure out if it's me. So
There
I don't know
go.
if you heard me. One of us froze.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah. So I realized that I was taking everything personally. And that I was always the one that was trying to make everybody else happy.
Okay.
Well, the first thing is that I said, okay, this is going to be hard, but I'm going to first start out by saying, first comes me, as long as I'm not hurting anybody else. I basically took on the airplane mentality, put the mask on myself first.
Right.
That started the going through coach training, got me to understand who I wanted to be. Not what I wanted to be, who I wanted to be. And I wanted to be the best version of me, not for my ex-wife, not for my children, not for my parents, not for anybody else. And, it was tough. It really was tough. But looking back now, it was the greatest journey I could have ever gone through.
Right. And that's a heck of a journey. I mean, you talk about ups and downs, and this is what we talk about a lot on the Encouragement Engineering podcast, is the idea that, life will do that to us. You didn't have any control over the economy, but you were getting into it with good faith. You were definitely building something good. And then all of a sudden stuff happens. You sure as heck weren't guaranteeing that your wife was going to be there for, more time. And all of a sudden here's that. But,
Right.
you were able to adapt to overcome. I mean, how has that built your attitude now and your mindset now? I mean,
Right.
it's fortunately we don't see scars on you. You may have big scars on your back, but I don't.
Well, unfortunately, there are some scars, but they're inside.
Yeah.
Okay. But the beauty about them is that I don't let them hold me back.
Right.
I read a wonderful book a few years ago by a Holocaust survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Edith Egger.
Okay.
And the book is called The Choice.
Okay.
And she was one of these women that came up in front of the doctor of death in Auschwitz.
Wow.
Mengele.
Mm-hmm.
And she was 14 at the time or something like that. And she just started dancing in front of him. Right. And he's like, okay, he pointed in the right direction.
Wow.
Right. And for her, she looked at it, and as she went through her life of going through the Holocaust, she realized that I'm a victim, but I'm not going to be victimized.
Right.
Right. And so she didn't allow them to take her inner power, her inner strength for herself. So that's the same thing here. The scars might be there, but I didn't never let them hold me back.
Right. And Viktor
yeah,
Frankl spoke, about that in his books
exactly.
too. I mean, just
Exactly.
amazing fortitude to keep that mindset that
Yep.
this will get better, that this can improve, that hope, somehow keeping that hope alive for people.
Right. Man's Search for Meaning. And she is a student of Viktor Frankl's, and I read him.
Okay.
I read him after I read her.
Okay.
So, and she's still alive. She's 94 and she's still kicking out. She's still kicking.
Great. That's something.
Yeah.
That is really something.
But it's that mindset. And you know what? I going through those years, I had suffered a little bit of PTSD because like, okay,
yeah,
what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? But it's recognizing that I was suffering it. That was the awareness of it.
Okay.
So as I went through coach training, I became a life coach, and I was a divorce recovery coach at first.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Even wrote a book on it.
Direct experience. Yeah.
Right. And after a couple of years of doing that, I looked in the mirror and I was the heaviest I ever was in my life. And I was like that because I wasn't allowing myself to be coached. I was besides trying to coach here and there, I was in a dead end job. So I allowed myself to accept this was my fate. And even though I tried to do things to change it, I wasn't doing one of the most important things. I wasn't allowing myself to grow, even though I was trying to coach others to grow.
Right.
I said I couldn't afford it, quote unquote. But you know what? It's not a cost. It's an investment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And one day I looked in the mirror. I was the heaviest I ever was. And a friend of mine that I'd gone through coach training with was on Facebook talking about, hey, I got this video you could do in 30 minutes to work out. Like, okay, I could wake up a little earlier.
Yeah.
I don't have to rationalize that I have to get to work and I can't wake up. I could wake up a little earlier. And I started working out. And those first couple of weeks were killer.
Yeah.
Even when I was when I was following the moderated person on the video.
Uh-huh.
But after 9 months, I lost 65 pounds.
Wow. Good for you.
Thank you. But you know what came with that? I switched from self-conscious to self-aware.
Wow. Okay.
So self-conscious is negative, guilt,
right,
doing for others. Self-aware is humility, whereas self-conscious is ego-driven.
Oh, wow.
Self-aware is contentment, whereas self-conscious is you're always looking for that approval or whatever. Or that, it's deeper, it's a bunch of it. And that's another card in my deck, actually, that talks about it a little quickly. But that switch let me recognize that my mindset was always in that lack mindset. I can't. It'll never happen for me. Why do things happen to me?
Right.
And now in the abundant mindset, it's I can. Everything is possible. And instead of like, maybe it'll happen for me. And then I recently heard something that I love through me.
Right. Okay.
So I'm going to start taking that into my life as well, happening through me.
Wow. And you bring up a great point, because that idea of, especially with the way the times are now, people are watching their, the dollars or cents, everything like that, can't afford it. Well, like you said, it is an investment, but for your knowledge, for your education, for your growth. How do you help people to look at that value so they see that? Because right away, the first thing they're going to see is the dollar cost.
Right.
That's a how do you shift that mindset?
That's a great question. So one of the things I do in my coaching course is I work on all aspects of your abundant mindset.
Okay.
Physical, personal, professional, spiritual, emotional, mental, and financial. But I leave financial till later. And I'll tell you why. Because usually financial is the toughest one for people to, because they're too busy saying, I can't afford. But if you start to use the other ones to lay the groundwork, it's great. But here's an idea of what I do with that. I take whatever money comes in and I take 40% of it and I put it on the side. And I split it into different categories, right? One of them is to, if a big expense comes my way.
Yep.
Another one is charity.
Yep.
Another one is golden goose, investments, invest in yourself.
Yeah.
And the last one is fun.
Okay.
Make sure you're always doing fun, and don't go more than 90 days without using some of that money in the fun category on yourself.
Right.
So you could use some of the fun in education, like coaching, or you could take it from the golden goose because you're investing in yourself.
Right. Wow.
But it takes some tough times. People are like 40%.
Yeah. No, see, right away, you hear it. What? I got to live off 60%? Yeah, they tell you to live off at least 70. Yeah. So 60 is not that far of a stretch.
Right, exactly.
Great idea for people. Wow. Because it brings up a key point. I think you offer encouragement and accountability to people, and that scenario right there drives it home. It's accountability literally with the numbers, and it's encouragement that you have the opportunity to do these other things. How do you integrate that more for people so people see that clearer?
Yeah. So you start out and look, if 40% is tough, start with 20%, whatever it is, and know that this is just a stop on the way to getting to 40%, because people say, I can't. As soon as they recognize that you can live on less money, when you recognize that you're spending too much on areas you don't have to be spending in that way, things just seem to happen right, because you're changing your mindset for that in the way so that it all works out right. So once that starts to happen, you say, okay, I got a little money. For example, a couple of years ago, I took my car in for a checkup, and I thought it was going to cost me $100. I was like, okay, the checkup, oil change. Well, they called me up. They said it's going to be $500. I was like, wow. But I looked at my big expenses. I had about $1,200 in there at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, here you go.
Yeah.
And it came out of that, and it didn't stop me. Of course, I wasn't happy that I had to pay the extra $400.
Right.
But it wasn't coming out of my daily expenses.
Right. Right.
So you have to set yourself up so that when those things come up, you're ready for it.
Yeah, those rainy day items will come up, and like you said, yeah, $100.
There's no way around it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, stuff happens. I mean, it does. They're cars, mechanical machines. They wear out like your shoes do. You got to buy your kids new shoes sometimes. So
that's it.
It happens. So, well, great insight with that. That's always helpful.
So I haven't explained where the life code came from.
Yeah.
Right? So now I'm doing all this stuff and I'm loving life and I'm doing something crazy, and I'm ADHD. So it's really crazy. I was meditating.
Okay. Wow.
Imagine a guy, even with even with the guy in my head, even with the guided meditation, getting through 10 minutes was torture. But one of these times I had this download that I was loving my life and everything was doing. So after I finished the 10-minute meditation, I wrote for 2 hours. Wow. And out of that came the acronym L-I-F-E, life, live incredibly full every day.
Right.
I even started dating because I was liking myself and I was loving myself and I was going to allow myself to be loved.
Right.
Which is something I was afraid never was going to happen to me. I was afraid to get divorced.
Yeah.
Because I thought nobody would ever love me. Right. So I started dating. I met somebody. And after 2 years, we got married. We've been married for almost 5 years.
Good. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you. So now it's 2020 and something else is going on in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And I'm looking around and everybody's worried.
Yeah.
It's May 2020. And my wife and her kids, we decide we're going to drive to New York City from Brooklyn. Now, if anybody's out there driven to New York City on a regular day,
Yeah, that's just nuts.
so imagine driving straight up 6th Avenue without missing a traffic light
Wow.
because there's no cars on the road.
Right. Yeah.
Now
Wow.
we
I never
turn and
thought
we
of that.
drive
Yeah.
down 5th Avenue past Museum Mile. We stop whenever we want. We're taking pictures. I'm looking at and say to my wife, why is everybody worried? Why isn't everybody out here? Why are we not worried?
Yeah.
And I realized the last 10 years, 12 years have prepared me for anything, even COVID. So I got onto Facebook. I said, guys, I get it. I know why you're so worried. So let me show you how to go from being a warrior to a warrior. And that's where the Warriors Life Coach came from.
Awesome. That is great. I mean, and you know, just to, you know, I could picture going up down 5th Avenue and 6th Avenue, you know, just wow, you know, without light. But to have that feeling of, you know, if you will, carefree.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it.
That's peaceful in itself to be able to do that. You know, and I think that's such a reward for people to see is that idea that you can bring that to that hope, that peacefulness, you know, the way we are in our times, we all need that.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important that you offer that to people.
Thank you.
Martin, tell us more about where people can get a hold of you, how they can find out more about your cards, your programs, your coaching business. Right. Tell us about that if you would.
So I made it easy. I said, how am I going to make sure that people come to me where they can remember my name? If you go to connectwithmartin.com, that's simple enough, right?
Yeah.
You go on there, you can buy my card deck. You can buy my book that's almost done. It might be done by the time this is recorded, you know, is live. You could also get some free gifts. How about something like this? How about I show you how to have an abundant warrior mindset with 7 steps using the acronym Warrior in a coloring book.
Hey, cool.
For adults and one for kids too.
All right.
We were allowed to color. And by the way, guys, it's okay to color outside the lines.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And that's what's nice about it is the smile you have on your face and the excitement and the bringing back the kid, if you will. You know, so many things in society, it's, you know, this or that. No, have fun with it. Let's have fun. So
exactly right.
You know, why not? We can enjoy this life we're on. It's a short trip. Let's enjoy it. So
right. And every time someone tells you you feel like you say, I can't, say, how can I?
Right. Great.
What can I do to make it so that I can? And the I can't will start to melt away.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome reminder for people. Well, Martin, thank you for being a guest on the Encouragement Engineering Podcast. I really appreciate what you're doing for our world, for the people you coach, you know, and the smile you're offering us today. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate that.
Thanks so much, Bob. Have a great day.
You have a great day.